Hello again, everybody. Today we're going to discuss some means of expressing the future in English. We can express the future tense in English by the following means. We can use the future simple tense, the phrase to be going to, future continuous, future perfect, as well as the future perfect continuous tense. So now let's turn to some future simple forms in affirmative, interrogative, and negative sentences in the first table. To form an affirmative sentence in the future simple tense, it's very simple. All you must say is I, you, we, they, he, she, or it. It is the same for all of them. Will do something. For example, I will visit my cousin tomorrow, or even they will visit my cousin tomorrow. Likewise, to make a negative sentence in this formation, you just add the word not after will. For example, I will not visit my cousin tomorrow, or even he will not visit my cousin tomorrow. To form an interrogative sentence, you simply move the word will to the beginning. For example, will he visit your cousin tomorrow? Or will they visit your cousin tomorrow? And some forms of short answers. To make a positive sentence, all you must say is yes, I will. Yes, he will, she will, they will. It's always the same. But to make a negative sentence, you must say no, they will not, or its short form, and be very careful, the short form won't. It is not wilt, it becomes the word won't, as in, no, they won't, no, he won't, no, I won't. The following adverbs are indicators that the future simple tense is or should be used. Words like tomorrow, next month, next year, next week, in a week, in several days, months, years, any time phrase which lets us know that it's in the future. Some cases of usage of the future simple tense are as follows. For example, I can say, I will see you tonight at 6. Or another example, in 6 years, I will graduate from the medical college and become a licensed doctor. Here, I've made an on-the-spot decision. I haven't planned my response in my head. And these are what are called, well, this is what is called the future indefinite tense. Here, I've made an on-the-spot decision and I've made a sudden response without planning it. So I'm using the word will. A second form that we can use is anything involving a verb of mental activity. For example, I think you'll do great on the exam. Or, I'm not sure that will work. Here, because I'm using mental activity, because I'm talking about what I think or feel, I can use the word will to make a prediction about the future. And finally, I could say something like, these bags are heavy, will you help me? Or if you ask me, because I'm such a nice guy, I'll tell you, yes, of course I will. Here, I've used will to make a request and to offer my help. Will you help me? Yes, I will. And you can use the future simple tense to do this. So there's another grammatical means that we can use to discuss the future, the phrase to be going to. And we can use this in a few different ways. For example, if there is something that seems obvious in the present, it's an action that will happen in the future, but it seems certain. We know it will happen, or we think very much that it will happen. I could say something like, oh, look, it's cloudy outside. I think it's going to rain. Or another example, this ladder is really shaky. You are going to fall if you climb on it. Here, both of these results seem obvious from the present conditions. So, I can say going to to talk about the future. Another example is that I can talk about decisions that I've made. For example, why have you taken down the curtains? Oh, I'm going to wash the windows. Or, for example, why are you getting in your car? Oh, I'm going to the store. Here, I have made a decision in the present to do something. I'm going to wash the windows. I'm going to the store. And here, even though my action will take place in the future, I can say going to express it. And finally, I can talk about arrangements. For example, they're going to get married in the fall. Here, both of these people have made an arrangement. They've planned to get married in the fall. And even though it's in the future, we can say they are going to do it without using will. So you must remember from previous lectures that we can also use the present continuous tense to talk about the future. So then what's the difference between present continuous and to be going to do something? Let's consider it in these two examples. Sam is meeting Helen tomorrow, and Sam is going to meet Helen tomorrow. In both of these examples, Sam has planned to meet with Helen. However, in the first example, both parties have agreed. Sam has already spoken to Helen, and it is a mutual plan. Both of them agree on this plan. In the second example, Sam has already planned to meet with Helen. However, they have not spoken yet. Sam has not already spoken to Sam about it. And remember that it's incorrect to use verbs of movement, for example, to go, with the phrase to be going. For example, I am going to go to the store later should just be I am going to the store later. There's no need for the extra to go. So, now let's sum up the cases of usage of the future simple, the phrase to be going to, and the present continuous tense by looking at Table 3. One example where we can use the future simple tense, talking about on-the-spot decisions, for example, the phone is ringing. I'll answer it. Or to talk about predictions based on what we think, believe, feel, or imagine. It will probably be raining later. The present continuous we use to talk about definite arrangements with all of the necessary preparations in the near future. Sam is meeting Helen tomorrow. These plans have already been arranged and finished. And finally, to be going to, we can use to talk about plans and intentions in the near future, but with little or no preparations. We're going to move to London. Or to talk about predictions based on what we see or what we know. For example, the coffee machine is going to break down because it's making a really strange noise right now. So now, having spoken about the future simple tense, we need to move on to discussing the future continuous tense in English. So first, let's look at some of the ways that we construct the future continuous tense by looking at Table 4. To make an affirmative sentence using the future continuous tense, you say simply I, he, she, it, you, we, and they. Again, all forms are the same, no matter who you're talking about. Will be watching, or will be doing, or will be swimming. Will be combined with the present participle, just like in every other continuous tense. For example, I will be watching TV at 5 o'clock tomorrow. To make a negative sentence using the future continuous tense, all you do is add not after will, just like you do in future simple. I will not be watching TV at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Or they will not be watching TV at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Similarly, to make an interrogative sentence, again, just like in future simple, you simply take will and move it to the front. will you be watching TV at 5 o'clock tomorrow? Or, will they be watching TV at 5 o'clock tomorrow? And, just like in every other continuous tense, short answers, yes, I will, yes, they will, for positive, and for negative, no, they won't. And remember that it's won't, not something else. Signal words for the future continuous tense include phrases like this time next week, or this time tomorrow, as well as phrases such as at 2 o'clock tomorrow and in 2016. So now let's examine some cases of usage of the future continuous tense. I can say, for example, at 5 o'clock tomorrow, I will be arriving in Japan, or we will be waiting outside the station. Here, I'm using this to express actions that will be in progress at a specific known time. We will be going tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Or we will be waiting outside whenever you are trying to find us. We can also use the future continuous tense when we're talking about actions that will definitely happen as the result of a routine. For example, at this time tomorrow, I'll be going to school. Or this time tomorrow, I'll be checking my mailbox. Because these events happen every day, and because I can rely on them to happen, I can use the future continuous tense to express them. But now, let's move from the future continuous tense into the future perfect tense. So, looking at Table 5, you will see some forms of the future perfect tense in English. To form the affirmative in the future perfect, you simply add the phrase have after will with the past participle of the main verb. And just like in every other future tense, it does not change depending on who you are talking about. I, you, we, they, he, she, and it all will use the same structure. For example, I will have delivered the goods by 5 p.m. Just like in every other future tense as well, to make the negative, you simply add not after the word will. For example, they will not have the goods delivered by 5 p.m. And again, just like every other future tense, to make a question or an interrogative sentence, you simply move will to the front of the sentence. Like in the phrase, will they have the goods delivered by 5 p.m.? And answering these phrases is even easier because just like in every other future tense, you can just say, yes, I will, for a positive answer, or yes, they will, yes, we will. And for a negative answer, no, we won't, no, you won't, no, it won't. Some signal words for the future perfect tense include the phrases by 5 o'clock tomorrow, or by that time, or by then, as well as the phrases till or until. And some examples using these would be, by 2 p.m. tomorrow, they will have delivered all of the information. Or, the house will have been finished by the 31st of March, 2016. Here, I'm talking about actions which will have been completed by a certain point in the future. In this case, 2 p.m. tomorrow or the 31st of March. So now let's move on from discussing the future perfect to the future perfect continuous tense. And let's examine some of the ways that this is formed by looking at Table 6. To form an affirmative sentence using the future perfect continuous tense, just like in future perfect, you will say will have, except we need a little bit extra. Here we will say will have been, with the present participle, the ing form of the verb. And once again, this will not change depending on who or what you are talking about. For example, I will have been living abroad for already 10 years. Or, they will have already been living abroad for 10 years. To form a negative sentence, again, you just add not after the word will. And don't worry because we have a few more words in our sentences now. The negative is still the same, simply will not. For example, you will not have been living abroad for 10 years. Or, she will not have been living abroad for 10 years. And again, in the interrogative sentence, you just put will at the front. Will you have been living abroad for 10 years already? Will they have been living abroad for 10 years already? Don't let the number of words in the sentence confuse you or trick you or scare you. It's all the same. And even easier. For short answers, all you have to say again are yes, I will, or for negative answers, no, I won't. So now let's examine some cases of usage of the future perfect continuous tense. In the first example, by next week, Suzanne will have been teaching English for 10 years. Or, next month, we will have been living abroad for 20 years. Here, we're using the future perfect continuous tense to stress the duration of an action up to a certain point in the future. They will have been doing it at a certain time. So that's all for the grammatical means to express the future, but we also have some lexical ways of talking about the future. For example, to be with the infinitive, as in the example, the president is to visit the USA next week. Here, I'm talking about official plans or official arrangements which have already been made and will certainly happen. We also have the phrase, to be about to do something with the infinitive, as in the phrase, he is about to leave. He will leave very soon in the future. And finally, to be due to with the infinitive. For example, the train is due to arrive in 10 minutes. Here, due to is according to a specific schedule or timetable. Because I have a schedule which tells me when all of the trains arrive, I know that the train is due to arrive in 10 minutes. And finally, to be sure or certain or bound to with the infinitive. For example, Sue is bound to visit Helen later. Here I'm discussing the intention, but it's a very strong intention. It's a sure plan that has already been made. She is bound to do it. I almost know that she will. So, to wrap everything up, today we've discussed several means of expressing the future. The future simple, future continuous, future perfect continuous tenses, as well as a few lexical means of expressing the future. To be, with a few extra verbs, or a few extra adverbs, and to be going to. Now, it's going to be very important that you review all of the tables contained in this lesson because they'll really help you master the material. And I think that's all for today. I'll see you next time.